services. We're still working out exactly our process for getting started.
You wanted a song, an introduction song.
I need an introduction
Come up with
song, make it a little bit less
Anne's going to
awkward.
sing in a minute.
But again, this is one of our digital ministries here at St. John's. I'm excited this morning because at 9 o'clock at St. John's, we were setting up for 2 digital ministries. We've got the young people in the room down the hall who are working on Godly Play and are going to do some filming and make a trailer for that. And then we're in here working to talk about the domain.
Yes.
So all kinds of interesting stuff and life on the second floor of St. John's. So
Yes,
that's good.
yes, and we have much to say. You probably have to cut us off and time us, and we might have to have 15 segments of this to get everything, but no.
Well, yeah.
It's just, there's a lot of good things about the domain, and
Well, let's dive right into it and talk about, how about each one of you introduce yourselves and talk about how you relate to the domain.
okay.
And then we'll talk about what the domain is.
Well, I'm Ann Miller. I am almost a 4 generation. We've been going for almost 60 years. I have pictures of my dad carrying my brother, who's just a year younger than me, on his shoulders at a St. George's Day kind of festival or a weekend at the domain. And it's really cool to see that. I grew up there, and my children grew up there. They took their friends, their cousins, whether they went to St. John's or not, or to an Episcopal Church. In my experience at the domain, we have produced, just in my associates, I've seen priests and bishops all to come from their experiences at the domain, which has been really a blessing for
You had
us.
a wedding there too.
Oh,
Yep.
my
Your
daughter
daughter
was
got
married
married?
there in 2019 in the cathedral, facing the cross and the mountain on the outside. I did ask my children before we came this morning, what does it still mean to them, if anything, right? After all these years. I got an abundance of excitement. You just said the words cathedral domain or just domain, and they lit up. Laura says, just the arrival to the domain, she gets goosebumps. When you get there, you're free. You're free. You're free from, at one point it was the internet, but we still have that. We now have some of that there. You're free from prejudices. You're free from work. You're free from school. You're free from just a lot of things. And it's a safe home. You're safe to be who you want to be. So as I have grandchildren now, going on 5 years old, just a few more years, we'll start the next generation.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's me for right now, and I'll pass it
Jackson, I'll
on.
go on to you, and there's something that you also said about the domain, to go on what Ann says. What is it that you always say happens when you go to the domain about time?
Time stops.
Yeah.
As soon as you step foot on the mountain, time stops. It halts, and all the chaos
Okay.
and all
That is
the violence and the hardships of the world freeze. And when you take one foot off the mountain, time starts back again, and you have to face the real world after that.
But you got to find a way to carry it with you too. Introduce yourself as well.
I'm
sorry.
Jackson Robbins, by the way, and I'm a frequent camper of the Cathedral Domain.
What camp do you go to now?
I am now going to senior conference.
And you started at?
I don't know.
You started at mini camp.
Mini camp,
Like
yeah,
as
mini camp.
yeah.
Moved
like-
on up.
Yes, he started at the very, very youngest. Yeah.
Yes. And I was also confirmed there in the cathedral.
On St. George's Day several years back.
Yeah.
Yes. I know.
Oh, yeah, Mom.
Yes.
Thank
Please. Thank you.
So what the domain means to me is really a second home, a home away from home, a place that you can connect more to God and to your friends as well, because the domain isn't just about learning about God. It's about making friends. It's about being yourself. It's about taking a break from all the chaos of the world to really recharge, to sit back, relax, to just be yourself, be a human being who just wants to have fun.
Well, and I'm Becky Robbins, Jackson's mom. I started going to the domain in the 80s. I don't have as much history as Ann does, but her brother was one of my counselors. And so I started going to junior conference, and now parent of a domainer, but I also try to get involved in anything and everything that I can be in, whether it's camp check-ins or happenings or St. George's Day. Ann and I both serve on the board for the Cathedral Domain, which has been nothing short of an absolute honor. And for me, the domain is, as they've said, it's peace. It's been a solace for me during some hard times. It's a place where everybody there accepts you for your idiosyncrasies, whatever they may be, or your quirks, or that it's just taken in stride, and you come up on that mountain and you exhale. You absolutely just exhale, and you think, okay, I am home. This is home away from home. If it is home regardless. So I try to do everything I can to get involved now to try and give back to the domain in service for everything that it's done for me and for my family, and to show my love and share my heart with it. So.
Well, and Father Dana, the domain couldn't survive without volunteers, and Becky is a leader in volunteers.
Bless your heart.
Well, it's true, and we do serve on the board. Catherine Harper here at our church also serves on the board as treasurer.
Does, yes.
And when I go back to my high school years, 40 plus years ago, I still have friends, and Catherine's one of them. And the folks that run the domain, Andy and Cindy, also go back 40 plus years with relationships with them. So it goes on for a lifetime. So our local church, we are represented, or we participate on a regional diocesan level as well. Our board has plenty of opportunities, or the domain has plenty of opportunities for you to participate as well. The second weekend, I have to look at Becky and make sure, of every month they have what's called a work weekend for 18 and over. Sorry, Jackson, but you're almost there.
They try to do the second weekend if there's nothing conflicting, so yeah.
And folks show up from all over the diocese. Some come in from out of state on a regular basis. They rebuild cabins, they rehab cabins. They are working on all kinds of projects. Oh, let's don't forget to talk about the rock climbing.
Yes.
I mean, we could be here for days.
We could.
So anyway, to make that a little quicker, the work weekend is this coming up, March the 11th, 12th, and 13th. We always make time for SEC play, so not to worry. We have multiple ways to access those games, so you won't miss out.
Yes, there's always a basketball break.
And Becky and Catherine, I think, broke the barrier, and so some ladies start to go to the domain. And
Shannon Lancaster helped.
Oh, that's right. And Shannon also back from when I went to the domain in high school. But there's plenty to do for everyone. We are doing a lot of Catherine and I cleaned out the nurses station last month.
That's awesome.
It looks like a different place. We're working on the storage areas in Patterson and the kitchen, so we need lots of help. So ladies or gentlemen, either one, we need some extra hands this month. So contact any of us, go to the domain website and click on
Cindy.
something.
Yeah, contact Cindy. Andy puts a punch list together every month, and that's what a lot of people work on. We do have some electricians, some plumbers, anybody who has a trade that would donate their time. The domain will benefit from that. And then those of us, like I don't have any of that trade, but I've gone to Cindy also, who works just as hard in a different capacity there, and I've asked, you put a punch list together for stuff that is outside my skill level with the other group. So what can we do for Cindy too? So there is something for everybody. And volunteers are always needed. And
from 18 to 80, we
18
need
to
your
80,
help.
yeah.
You get to stay free while you're there, and you either contribute financially for some food, or you get your turn to bring some food.
Yes.
Let's see. We are building a new cabin.
Yes,
Very
we are.
exciting.
This is exciting.
This
I know.
is very exciting.
For 2 years in a row, we ran out of space for our young men on the men's side of camp. So they are building a new cabin. It is a 24-bed cabin. And it is going to be built close to the dining hall. So kind of at the entrance, which helps a little bit with security. So when you enter into the facility, you see multiple buildings. So you know people are there. Plus, it's also going to have an apartment for our maintenance staff who can live there year-round. Right now, the maintenance staff lives in a cabin and then gets moved around.
Bless his heart.
I know,
Lives out of a suitcase.
Yeah, based on what goes on. So this is a really a positive sign of growth for us at the Domain. The last thing I'm going to mention without chiming in is we're doing a fundraiser on August the 20th for the upkeep of the Domain, and it will be on August 20th, my birthday. In Lexington, we just don't know where.
Yep.
So,
Oh, the COVID tests.
well, you talk about
I'll talk
camp
about
and
those.
more.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do actually. I know a lot of people are familiar with the Domain and all the youth events that they do, but we are not only about the youth. We also have several different events throughout the year. One that is a huge family event. Well, I mean, you can be a single person income, but it's for all ages, and that's St. George's Day. Generally, St. George's Day does fall on the actual holiday itself, which this year is April 23rd. However, the bishop had a conflict, so we've pushed it back a week. April 30th is St. George's Day, the big event and festivities. You can come for the whole weekend, which I highly recommend because we also do campfires at night and there is food provided. But that Saturday, usually around 10 or 11, people start showing up. We have a gentleman, Butch Clemens, who is there all night Friday and barbecues a pig. He does I guess it's no, it's not a rotisserie, but he barbecues it. And it is divine. It's delicious. But we have guided hikes. This year we hope to have a bouncy castle for the younger kids. We also have some arts and crafts for the younger kids. We're going to have a story time to teach them about St. George and the Dragon. We have several people there that are going to be providing guitar music and some piano or keyboard music for the service, but then also just on the porch for everybody to enjoy. We have a Eucharist. This year is going to be a little earlier than usual. It's going to be at 1:30. So we'll have guided hikes and events prior to the Eucharist, plus lunch at noon. And then we also have a continuance of events after that. So
On Saturday, right?
on Saturday, April 30th, yes, from 10 until whenever you want to stay till. It is open for everybody. We have a lot of people that have reached out lately that actually have ties to the history of the Domain, and I'm so tickled that they're going to be there. I'm hoping that they'll be able to sit around and tell things about their family from the beginning of the Domain. I had somebody who reached out to me just last night whose great-great-grandfather was the one that donated that donated the land to Alexander Patterson, who started it all. So I'm super excited. Then we also have an event that's called Camp Indian Summer, and that is for ages 21 and up. It is camp for adults, and it is a weekend retreat. No kids allowed, sorry. But we have campfires, we have hikes, we have music played, like when you're at camp. Come to camp and experience it for the first time, or come to camp and re-experience it. So it's camp without the curfew. But that will be September 29th, 30th, and October 1st of this year. It's always late September to the first week of October. Go to the Domain website or their Facebook page, and you'll see lots of information posted on that. So, like I said, that one's for ages 21 and up.
And last year, I thought it was interesting, and
We had a
it
blast.
was exciting because some folks came who had never been to the Domain, who fell in love with it and plan on coming back.
Yes.
Brought their children back after that weekend, and hopefully they'll go to.
They're going to camp this.
Yeah.
Never stepped foot on the mountain ever before. Never even heard about it until Camp Indian Summer. So, yep. You want to talk about your camps?
Yes.
You
So
better go quick.
Yeah. How much time we got?
No, I meant we'll interrupt.
So there are numerous camps. I've gone to a lot of them. To name them, mini camp. There's boys camp, which is specifically for boys. There's junior conference for 7th through 8th graders, and there's senior conference for high schoolers. And there's also co-ed camp and girls camp. Co-ed is mixed genders, and girls camp is, as the name implies, all girls.
For the younger girls, yeah,
Yes.
for like elementary
Yes.
school age. Yep.
And there are...
You have retreats, you have happenings.
There's retreats, there's happening, which I can't talk about for obvious reasons.
Yes.
New beginnings.
New beginnings, there is that as well. There's New Year in Spirit, which is a New Year's kind of camp, goes throughout the weekend. Most camps last from Sunday to Saturday. They're 1 week. And
Those are the camps, not the retreats.
that's the camps,
Yes.
yes. And
Tell us about what you're doing now as going to be a counselor.
Oh, yeah.
little bit,
So
because
I went to a counselor
because-
training
Yes.
yesterday.
And
so,
before you
yeah.
start, that was a big deal. I would go to camp as a
Huge, yes.
counselor, then the same summer I'd stay there for camp,
Yeah.
and then still be a counselor. I mean, I'd stay my whole summers up there.
And it's a volunteer status. And so there's
Yes.
a lot of kids, one in particular that I know of, that had just graduated high school. He spent his entire summer up there on a volunteer status except for 2 weeks of his whole summer. I mean, it just goes to show what these kids think of, how they feel about the domain. So I'll tell you that. So go ahead. So you can talk about being a counselor.
So a counselor is it's a different experience than being a camper. Not as rewarding as being a camper, but it is certainly.
That is not true. It's
Yes.
different rewarding.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I feel like I should have sat between
You
them.
probably should have, yes.
So being a counselor is very much different than being a camper. When you're a counselor, you have a lot more responsibilities. You are serving a lot more, and you all in all have to be a leader. You have to be someone that the kids look up to, someone that they can trust, someone that has to look after them when they do stupid things.
I'm not saying a word. Okay, go ahead.
And it's a whole different experience. It's a lot of fun. At some points, it can be stressing, especially when you don't know what to do. But as you go along, the more experience you get, the better counselor you'll become. And then when you get of age, you can become a summer staff, which...
You live up there and are paid to live up there all
Yes.
summer.
Yes.
Score.
Yes.
Yep. So, Father Dana, I think we've covered
It's a
camp,
lot of
maybe?
information
A
all
lot.
at once.
Yes.
So obviously, if you want more information about the cathedral domain, you can always ask
Yes.
Jackson, Becky, Ann, or Catherine Harper. We have some other people who are connected to the domain. One of the things that I want to remind everyone in the congregation is that we have funds set aside for camperships.
Oh, yay.
So that it's
Scholarships.
That's
so
awesome.
that if you're looking at sending your kid to camp and it is looking like a financial burden,
Absolutely.
we will. You can let Deacon Emily know, or you can let me know, and we can make those funds available. The domain itself has scholarship funds. They don't turn kids away because of a lack of an ability to pay. And as a ministry, it really is operated as a ministry of the church. I would encourage everyone, if you're considering about registering for the domain and you're considerate about financial, you have some financial concerns, let's start here at St. John's because we do have those funds locally, and then that frees up those funds for people who don't have a church home, the domain's own funds who don't have a church home. And of course, if we need to find a way to use both, if there's a real need, we can do that as well. But also want to encourage people to look at the camps. We've had a number of our young people go down there in addition to Jackson, And I have gone and have served as camp chaplain. I remember one year in particular, I had known Jackson pretty well by then through confirmation. And then he got up one day at one of the talent shows and did stand-up comedy and brought the place down. And I just remember just sitting back there and I was like...
Yeah, by throwing Mom under the bus.
Yes, he did, but that's okay.
But that's, hey, man, like
was
mom jokes...
Right, yeah.
For that age group, they slayed.
Yeah.
And it was pretty funny. But I think that's just another example of, even when you get to know youth well within a church context, being present at a summer camp allows them to explore even more of their personality, their faith, to try on new hats, to experiment with new things. And so that's fun for me when I'm there helping to lead the camps, to also watch as our young people blossom and experiment at the domain.
Every child should have the opportunity to go to camp.
Yes.
At least
And it
once
doesn't
in their life.
matter what denomination or if
No.
you've never stepped foot in a church, the domain welcomes everybody.
And speaking of camps, I got some numbers from Becky before we started, and I think, Becky, you said they were if we were at 100%, we run through 1,100
About 1,100
kids
approximately.
a summer, and then the last year and maybe this year we're at 60%, about 700. All the COVID tests that we had last year, we threw away because they've all expired. I got these two in the mail from the U.S. Post Office, is that
Yeah.
right, for free? They don't expire until January the 23rd. So we are going to be collecting, and we're doing it now, we're collecting COVID tests to have on hand at camp. So if you have got some you can bring into the church, we'll create a basket or box or something, and somewhere we're going to put it in the announcements and Eagle Wings, and we'll be collecting these all summer long. So there's plenty of opportunities. If you have any at your work, or you're able to, maybe your work will donate some, or if you know a doctor's office who can donate some, we probably need 1,000 tests, because sometimes,
hurt.
you know, you might test a child more than one time, or a young person more than one time, or even a staff member. So we need quite a few tests to keep us in stock for the summer, and then once camp's over, we can redonate what's not used to other,
Yes.
I guess, businesses,
Or
schools.
hold on to them for the retreats and stuff that we have.
Oh, that's true, too.
That we have as well, too. So,
Well, and that's another thing to keep in mind is that the domain is nationally accredited as a summer camp.
it is.
And that means that they maintain all of these higher standards that an outside body comes in and establishes and then checks. And one of those standards is to make sure that there's medical professionals who are there, that there are personnel. It's called camp nurse, but the last time I was at the domain, it was actually a PA who had boys of her own. I was there. Bia came with me for that camp, and I thought, well, this is just perfect. Like, there's better medical care here if something happens than pretty much anywhere else in this area. And I know that it's been an opportunity for students, when I was in campus ministry, students that were going into the medical professions got recruited to be both camp staff, counselors, and also when they had earned enough certifications and had enough training to come in and to serve as camp nurse. And that if you have a medical background, I know that is one of those areas where Andy and Cindy are always looking to recruit people.
Absolutely.
To get down. So we have some people in the congregation, and if you want to donate a week of your time, you will not be disappointed by that experience.
No,
Now,
it's a lot of fun being on staff and counselors and whatnot.
I'm probably gonna butcher this. So Andy and Cindy, and please forgive me. And they sent Zach, who is the current manager of the domain, on the physical
He's
side.
a full-time staffer, yes.
They sent him to Nantahala, if I said that right, in North Carolina, and he went through an intense outdoor medical training. So he has, there's a name for it. I apologize, I don't have it. For if you're injured outside, on a hike, on a mountain, he's
accredited.
He's that.
Zach Futrell, you're awesome.
Yeah, so we've stepped that up
You've
even
stepped
more.
it even up.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep. The counselor training that we had yesterday for all the counselors and CITs, they actually have an online course that they have to complete. I think it's a three and a half part or 3.5 hour course that they have to do in 3 different parts, and so that's in line with their accreditation for the American Camp Association. I think the ACA is what it is. So they don't take these things lightly, and they take taking care of your kids and your youth and all the people that you send there very seriously.
Well, that brings us to another point. Do we still have time?
Oh, yeah,
Probably
we
not.
got a little bit of time.
Come on, sit back, get your coffee. So, Jackson, tell us some of the activities, which are 10 times more than when I went to camp, that some of the things that you all can do as campers, no matter what the age, starting with the pool and then all the things.
Well, there are there are a multitude of activities, many of which are more fun than the last. But I could argue each and every one of them is just as fun.
Right.
There is very simple arts and crafts. You go to Patterson, do some cool coloring stuff, making.
No, my wind
Arts.
chimes one
Okay,
year.
I still have arts and crafts from when I
Yeah.
went to camp.
Me
I
too.
still have them from when my children.
Yeah.
I use them on my desk.
I
I
have
still
wind
have them
chimes,
all.
teammate.
Yeah.
You all have night swims,
Yeah,
even? Sorry.
I really should have sat between them.
Please.
Jackson, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
So there's swimming. There's night swims, which we have, which are on special occasions. There is a little thing everyone loves called Camp Store. And that's where you can just go and get a snack, get a soda, get some candy, sit back, relax.
They have a working slush puppy machine.
Yes, they do. That was donated.
As someone who grew up in the 80s and early 90s, like, that was part of my childhood, and I hadn't seen one for 15 years before I walked to Camp Store, and it's like, there's a slush puppy machine.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There is the very, very popular game, which we all play, Foursquare. There is the volleyball court, and then there's the multitude of hikes. There is Pine Mesa, which is 4 hours, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. There is Wolf Pen, which is a very, very difficult climb. There is Mount Patterson, which is also a difficult climb, but it gives a great view of the camp. There is Bat Cave, which is,
Our
in its
favorite.
name, a cave that you
With
can
bats?
go through with
Yeah,
bats.
it's a bat nursery in the
Yes.
winter.
There is the spring, which we go down to sometimes, and we can fill up our water bottles with the actual spring water. There is rock climbing, rappelling, archery. There is
What about the pond? Do you do anything in the pond?
fishing. There's fishing.
Okay.
Yes, there's fishing. Let's see, what else is there?
Well, you hit on rock climbing, and I'm not educated enough, but we do have. So
We should do
fill
a
it in.
segment on the rock
Yeah,
domain.
that is open to the public, and they pay, and they can camp there. There's a brand new bathhouse that was built by the folks that do the work weekends, which is something to be very proud of. That's still under construction. The bathhouse is done.
The bathhouse is done and very nice.
Yes, and they added signboards or signage, with a list of everything they can do and who to contact and emergency numbers.
Really nice primitive camping spot too.
Yes,
that has
primitive.
for the places for your
Pop-up
for your tents
yeah.
and stuff, where it has like the rubber mulch and stuff, so it's a softer. It has something down, so it's softer when you set up and where you're laying down. But then also you can rent cabins at the domain too if you're there for the rock climbing, and that has some really neat hiking spots too. But also, I mean, the crags that they have that they climb up is they're actually breathtaking locations. I'm scared of heights and I'm not gonna rock climb, but I
totally
love
forgot
going to their locations and seeing where they are.
I
So-
totally forgot about Wind Tunnel.
Well, there's Wind Tunnel as well too. Yeah,
I totally forgot about
has
Wind
some Native
Tu-
American
and-
history.
And
yeah.
Saddle.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't forget the saddle. But
No, will you turn that on?
So we've got there's a lot to do, a lot in nature, a lot of physical stuff. I think that's important too, especially coming out of COVID. I mean, a lot of us, and especially our young people, have spent a considerable amount of time in the last 2 years in front of screens.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking for an experience, whether you're old or you're young or you're concerned about your kids, and you want to like move away from the screens and back into real life, it's hard to get more real life than going through a bat cave, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a long hike through a bat.
Yeah.
I mean, that will reorientate you to the natural world faster than just about anything. Or
Right.
rappelling off, which is done very safely.
Very.
But I mean, again, it allows people to test their comfort levels and to make that step of bravery to go down the side of a rock face. Which is not something that every camp offers,
No.
and is something that we have at the Cathedral Domain.
Yes.
I miss something else.
What's that?
I miss Adventure Camp.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's another one of the camps as well
Adventure
too.
Camp
So-
is it's a camp that, well, in its name, it's a lot more hiking. This last adventure camp that I went to, we went to the Cumberland Gap, and we camped in Cumberland Gap National Park. And then we went to the White Rocks Overlook. We walked through the gap, and then we came back and we rappelled off the cliff of
Bat Cave. Yeah.
and that was awesome.
From Monday morning to Friday when they returned to camp full time, they did 48 miles of hiking.
That's
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that was not just linear, that was probably a
Yeah,
lot
that
of,
was a lot of ups
Yeah.
and downs. So,
The
but I think we can.
The White Rock Overlook was a 6-hour hike of a constant. So it was about that steep going
It
up
was pretty steep, yeah.
for 6 straight hours.
And
They had
isn't
a
there
blast.
a nature camp too? A
Not so
science
much
camp?
anymore. So
There used
I
to
don't
be-
know. There used to be an
Whoops.
environmental camp, but they actually talked yesterday about maybe starting that back up again.
And new to me, just this last year during Camp Indian Summer when we went as just adults or 18 and over. Was it 21 and over?
21 and over.
21 and over. I was totally surprised, pleasantly so, about the Native American history that is on that site. I should have known and should have realized, but it's never had been taught to me. I had never read anything on it. Awesome. You know, when you go up to the Saddle or to Wind Tunnel, there are like the bowls that are still in the rocks,
Yeah.
where they might grind their meal.
Yep.
And then there was some.
Find Andy Sigmund and ask to see the 1,500-year-old skull he's got in his office
That
too.
thing is
So
awesome.
yeah, it is actually was sent off for dating. So and that was found on the property.
There's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
A lot of history.
And all of our camps and not to do a sidebar, but all of our camps and retreats, we always follow to the T the CDC guidelines for the COVID safety.
Before every meal, we take temperatures. I mean, it's
Several
a,
times
it's a
a day,
big
too.
thing.
Yeah. So come see us.
all right. For members of the St. John's Vestry, we did a retreat right before COVID, and that was a good opportunity for us to get away and do some group bonding and build some relationships outside of a business meeting. And we're looking forward to going back there in April, which for some of our Vestry members will be their first domain experience. And so we want to lift that up as the camping ministry of the diocese. It works well for weddings, works well for group retreats, works well for camp experiences for the young and for the old. We've got financial assistance available for those who need it, and really do want to keep maintaining this connection between St. John's and the Cathedral Domain.
And we have a cabin.
Amen.
Yes.
And we-
St. John's has our own cabin
Yes.
there.
Named
Yes.
after
And,
us.
and we are responsible for keeping it financially.
Yeah.
Not
And it's
100%, but we do
remodeled
contribute
and-
to it.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh, it looks
It's really nice.
wonderful.
So come see us.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Go to the mountain.
All right. Let's say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thanks for joining us
Thank
between
you.
two services.
Thank you.